So now I'm going to welcome two other amazing panelists that we have. We have Justine Davis, who's our global health expert here at Rwanda Build. You are welcome. Please, a round of applause for Justine. We also have Willie, who's a business coach, business consultant, and entrepreneur, like advisor. Please welcome Willie.
Hi, everybody, and thanks for the invite. I'm Justine Davis. I'm a professor of global health at the University of Birmingham and the director of a World Health Organization collaborating center on emergency, critical, and operative care. Nice to see you all.
Good evening, sorry. It's a pleasure to be here. As Thibaut said, my name is Willie. I'm a business development consultant, but I'm also an entrepreneurship development expert. Been with the startup ecosystem in Rwanda, across Africa, and also in Asia, Dubai, Canada for the past 10 years. And it's really a great pleasure to be here to discuss about how 2026 is going to look like and know how to properly position ourselves, not only as business owners, but also
with Willie or Rob. Mm-hmm. So we saw Rwanda introduced the first African flying car. I hope everyone in the room saw that. So the first question that goes, I would say this is really brilliant. Rwanda is, as Rob said, the government of Rwanda is doing really an amazing thing, try to adopt new technology and being the first. So my question is will people trust it first? And when will the first person pay for a ticket to drive, to go? I mean, locally. And yeah, Rob, maybe you can start. Will people trust it first?
I've been chewing up this microphone for too long, so I'll keep this real short. Me personally, nope. I don't parachute. I don't bungee jump. I only zip line with my team. Love you guys. And that's proof. I am not getting in a flying car that is new. But that's of course me.
I think based on the experience, what I've seen in Rwanda, the way Rwandese people adopt new innovations, new products, new development initiatives, I would say that people are going to adopt it, as more than we actually expect, because.
If I buy you a ticket, will you hop in day one?
Absolutely.
All right.
Because this is something, I had an opportunity to visit China in 2019, and that was the first time I saw a drone delivering something, a drink, someone ordered food. Yeah, I physically saw it. And, seeing a flying drone type, car, however we want to call it, I wouldn't be opposed to that, because sometimes I know that I saw something people were debating around the fact that a plane is actually one of the most safest transportation systems.
A plane that is a jet that is regulated by all of our governments to be safe.
Yeah.
Listen, one thing I know is that in Rwanda, if the government has Rwandans trust the government. That's one thing that I've noticed. Yeah. In my mind, I'm me as a Rwandan and other Rwandese people, we can have the audience participate as well. If the government approved it, it's because we assume that it's better tasted, okay? If we are going to use it, then we can.
Can I comment?
Absolutely.
All right, that's like a red rag to a bull.
Okay.
So that may be the thing in Rwanda, but in many countries in the world, we do not automatically trust our government. So we certainly, in the UK, do not automatically trust our government, because we know what they do. And we know what they do because we've got a very good free press. And that's why we do not trust our government. I mean, we saw today that he's not government, but Prince Andrew was arrested for sex offences.
Absolutely.
Should we trust him just because he's in power? No. So please, never blindly trust always be cynical. The other thing about flying cars, I mean, other than the fact that we don't actually know if they're safe, we don't know if they're safe because we don't know if en masse they're safe. So one flying car may be able to transport one person or one heavy object from one place to another. If they're introduced in general, do we know they're safe? Are the systems there to make them safe like they are for the airline industry? We do not know that. And I can pretty much guarantee that not only do the Rwandan government not know that, no government knows that.
It would be interesting to know about that regulations and the transparency on testing.
No, for me, from the viewpoint, and I'm speaking, I know that 100% you can't just see something and then say, okay, this is safe. That's just because someone said it's safe.
But you will take that ride right by that ticket.
Yeah, I'm
right?
leaning on other policies or other innovations that were implemented and seeing how it has been adopted. I think there's a fair level of trust that Rwandese place to those innovations, and this has nothing to do. I think it has nothing to do with it being safe or unsafe. It's a matter of saying, okay, is this something what is actually solving in terms of the problem? Is it actually solving a real problem in terms of transportation? Is it really going to solve that?
That's probably the bigger question.
Yeah. Because if the only people who can afford a flying car in Kigali are only 0.1%, those people either will have cars, they move fast either way.
And I bet most of those people, that 0.01% you talked about, will not be buying that ticket.
Yeah.
I know I won't be.
So, yeah.
And the other thing to consider, it's not just, woohoo, it's shiny new, we love it, it's great, shiny new. It's actually there are broader effects. So if we talk about tech, it's not just the effect of tech, and in this case we're talking about flying cars on the individual and the fact that it's exciting. It's the effect of tech on everybody else living in that environment. So in the UK, there's a lot of talk of bringing in drones for deliveries. But actually, there's a lot of resentment and sentiment against it because drones flying around people's houses, they do not want it.
So you're saying privacy and also safety. What if that drone comes out of the sky?
Yeah, exactly.
And in Rwanda, we're the most densely populated country. And of course, Kigali is even more densely populated. Yeah, that's a... Okay. I appreciate sitting next to the smartest person in the room.
And it's a real consideration. The safety of people and the environment that they live in and the effects on that is also a real consideration. And these things go way beyond trust.
I mean, we'll see. I mean, as Rob said, the Rwanda has that oops effect where we say, okay, yeah, this was a good thing or a bad thing, then we can go back to renovating and fixing it.
And us in the UK are very happy to see you guys be that experiment.
Yeah, I know it looks different, but I think it's another innovation that is going to be one of the transportation means that people can adopt, just like, we used to fly, we used to walk.
One thing about across the world, why they invest into environments like this is because this is a great testing environment.
Yeah.
And there is some mitigation of risk to that. If this country is willing to take on those risks, if this country has that ability to move something forward faster than we can elsewhere, that's where that funding comes in to do so. And that's at a whole nother policy level that I'm not at. I like to build things and have fun, and I'm personally not in a car that's going to fly.
Like we've seen also like examples. As you say, Rwanda is a very good country for testing. Like we've seen Zipline when they started doing the medical supply. Like they started with like maybe 1-2 drones.
Yeah, 1-2 drones.
And it was like only like a few miles it was covering like the first time. But now we can see like different districts are using Zipline. And staying on the medical side, for Justine, do you believe like we're gonna have flying ambulances?
I mean, it's the same for as for cars. One can have flying ambulances. Firstly, you've got a technical challenge. So for an ambulance to be effective, you need to have the equipment within it, and you need to have the staff in it. So that's a heavy piece of flying equipment.
We have helicopters, drones, right?
Yeah, exactly. So if you need a helicopter, then yeah, that can work as a flying ambulance, but they're also known to be not the best way of transporting a sick patient. So if you need a sick patient to get somewhere quickly, then put them in the air, use a helicopter.
Isn't it like it's a severe trauma and it's a certain amount of distance, right? There's like a threshold to hit.
Yeah, but actually it's better. So when I fell off my horse and broke myself very much, then actually getting in, the ambulance came by the road. The helicopter also arrived, but the decision was that it was safer to put me in a road transport ambulance than a helicopter, because there are things you can do in an ambulance that you cannot do in a helicopter. So it's not always quick. It's about making sure the patient is stable and you can treat them.
Treatment inside that ambulance
it's easier.
Is easier than it would be in that helicopter.
In a helicopter that's noisy, that's a confined space, that's maybe not so stable. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Wow, that's so interesting.
So, like, in terms of maybe like policy or even like trying to think about like the drone delivery, from your experience, even like not only in Rwanda but around the world. So, will you say like maybe drones are not safe, or maybe helicopters? I mean, drones won't be safer than like the like ambulances or?
Well, there's probably like risk and then benefit.
Yeah, exactly. So you always consider the risk-benefit ratio. And so if you're talking flying drone ambulances, then if you've already need to have a whole team of people in there to keep you stable, what's the point of having a drone, which basically is like a helicopter without a pilot? So what's the advantage? What's the benefit to that additional risk? And that's something that, you know, people with ethics degrees and law degrees, and I believe you'll still have a job, lawyers.
Okay, thank you, Justine.
And we got a good Justine prediction there, too.
Yeah.
There will be lawyers. You'll always have a job. There's always going to be room for a lawyer.
So now, like, I feel like we started already, like, on the healthcare field industry. Justine, as a global health expert, like, we'd like to know, like, what the trend has been, like, focused on the capacity, skills, or maybe like technology. Like, what are trends that you see in Africa, like, or maybe around the world, but the trends that you see in the health tech or the healthcare like industry coming up?
Yeah, so the trends we see all very much, I mean, you mentioned around the world, the trends that we see very much depend on where you are. So, I mean, you've been talking about AI earlier, and so AI in healthcare, so looking after patients, is not used at all in the UK, really. I mean, it's very, 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 very minimal. In the United States, it's used more. So in the United States, then doctors are more familiar with using AI to kind of capture medical notes. In the UK, people just won't go there. They don't want to go there. In Africa, that's not.
Okay.
That's way off at the moment.
Okay.
So if you look at how you treat patients, the first thing you do is you take a medical history. And that medical history, you ask the patients about their symptoms. That allows you to formulate a diagnosis. From that diagnosis, you then make a management strategy, how to treat the patient. And then you will manage the patient. So that's all possible to do without an actual doctor, but it's quite a complex patient that one has to code for. So AI companies and tech companies are trying to do that, but they are at the moment quite a long way off. And they're doing it with some things like taking a history, medical history, to try and come up with a diagnosis, but they're not doing it for then making a management strategy, or they're doing it for a management strategy but not a history. So at the moment, in high-income countries, AI in medicine is in the early phases but will accelerate. In sub-Saharan Africa or low-middle-income countries, we don't yet have the data to program the AI. And that may be things that actually holds back AI being as safe as it can be in sub-Saharan Africa.
So is this where the United States has been dominating in that part, and then China's been dominating that side?
So
or is it that layer you mean? That we
So
just
to
don't
train,
have?
yeah. So to train AI, you need data. So AI is trained on data. It doesn't just come into being; it's actually trained. And in the United States and the UK, there is data. So data on the patients, what happened to them, and what their outcomes were, and they're all linked up. So there's massive amount of data that you can use to train an AI. In many low or middle income countries, low resource settings, there's not that data, and we don't know that patients behave the same in these settings.
I understand.
Okay. One more question on that. I'm sorry. So recently, the government, the Bill and Melinda Foundation, offered like 50 million in funding, a partnership with OpenAI, but it's mostly that we go in healthcare, healthcare services. So should we say like maybe, and even like I think last year in May they also mentioned like King Faisal now can do like a remote. They have the tool for remote surgery. So do you believe, what the funding is going to do, like, first for that, for the 50 million, and do you believe, like, this is something that is going to, like, to blow up, like, during, like, these coming years in Rwanda, or it's just, you are far behind?
So firstly, robotic surgery isn't the same as AI. So robotic surgery is robotic surgery. It's using robots. They are safer than humans, but that is kind of separate to what I think OpenAI is trying to do.
Yeah.
And I just refer back to my other comment. I mean, it's great that there's an investment in AI to make sure that AI is doing what that AI is supposed to be. There needs to be data. We, in multiple countries, have tried to link that data, so see if the data on patients are there and link it through to their outcomes, so that the AI can be trained to know what it's doing. In all of the countries I've worked, and I work in Rwanda, South Africa, Ghana, Ethiopia, Pakistan, there is not enough data to train an AI and understand that it's actually making the right decision. And that's really important, because you've got to know that your AI is making the right decision. When your AI says, you've got stomach cancer, go and have some surgery with one of those robots in King Faisal Hospital, how do you know that's right? I don't know. So that's what I'm interested to learn. There's a lot of investment, that's great. It would be great to see that paralleled by an investment in people to make sure the data were being collected, so it was accurate.
But not as much of a problem with the robotic side, be it automated or human-driven or all that.
So the robotic side, if you need surgery, we know that the robots are safer for some surgeries. So if you need surgery and there's a robot, then have the robot do it. It doesn't matter. If you've got, if you need your liver taken out, that's the same wherever you are.
Gotcha.
And also, if you need your liver taken out in a bad way and you spent far too much time in Rob's bar.
My apologies to all those missing livers.
Okay, in terms of predictions, just like a few seconds, when do you think like maybe Rwanda will be like ready to be able to use those AI tools like in healthcare?
There's two questions within that, and I'm not going to answer either of them, but I'm going to pose them. The first is the one you asked, when will it be? I think will it be using AI tools for healthcare? And when will it be using AI tools for healthcare safely?
Oh. Thank you.
On that, no, that's so interesting. On that, so really AI, all that money, everything that we're putting into technology, there's layers below it of good practice to collect this data. And AI isn't going to solve that. This other technology isn't going to solve that. That really is a human power, and that's a good process, and it's good behavior. I mean, there's just so much more to it, policy-wise, to just really enforce it. And then also, I'm that builder guy, so I'm leaning in on where you're at, but it's measuring it and proving it too.
Yeah, exactly. So you need to have the proof. So with most AI companies in the States, there are doctors who are quality checkers. So there are doctors who are quality checkers in the company, and there are a load of doctors in India who spend their time quality checking. So that's, it's a thing. You need to make sure, because AIs hallucinate, right?
Yeah, as much as I'd love to say we can build the future, we can get some tech in here and solve the problems. There's the human side of this, and there's that, and it has to be ready for the technology later.
It needs to be made. Anything in healthcare needs to be safe. at risk is when there are no data to check that it's safe. And that is a potential problem. So we need to celebrate AI, but we need to make sure that that investment that's been made into Rwanda is also being invested in making sure that the resultant products are accurate and safe.
What a great conversation. That's amazing.
Yeah, okay. Now, Willie, staying on this topic on the health tech and AI in Rwanda, I think you even know better than me, and you focusing on mentoring founders, working with different founders. Like we've seen, like in Hanga Pitch Fest, most founders trying to say like, I'm trying to build an AI that's going to do diagnostics. Justine mentioned, well, is it safe? We don't have enough data. Like you can trust just an AI, or maybe like you put maybe. Like you can say like it's going to say like now you have a tumor or you have something like this. But when you mentor founders or when you talk to founders trying to build in that field, do you think like Rwandan founders are ready, or like they just don't know what they're building? They don't have expert behind them like to guide them. Like having someone like Justine which
everyone needs a Justine.
Yeah, to give you like those feedback. Have you encountered some of them? We see in Hunger Pitch, I see like 50 of them, 20%. I mean 80%. Is mostly like health tech, but also like they're trying to bring AI because it's a hot topic. So do you think like founders are ready? What are you going to see like happening this year as well?
I think, yeah, that's a great question. I think what I've seen over the course of a decade that I've been in this industry, now I'm also privileged enough to be on the side of the investors, because now I'm also doing fundraising work for businesses. And one of the repetitive technical error that I've seen founders make is thinking that because you are an engineer, you are a programmer, you can go ahead and build a health tech startup. Just because you know how to write code, you can go ahead. I always give an example when I'm having this conversation with people, either fellow professionals or stakeholders, partners in the ecosystem. I tell them, okay, let's say you are an investor. You have two groups of people who come to pitch a business to you. Group A is made by incredible engineers. These are like A+ engineers. They can code whatever thing you want. And they want to build a health tech startup, but they know nothing about healthcare, the health sector. And you have a next group, the Group B, made of doctors. These guys have been in the medical space for combined, they probably have like 30 years of work experience in the medical sector. And they're raising money to build a health tech company, but they don't know anything about coding. Who are you going to invest in? Are you going to invest in engineers who know nothing about healthcare? Or are you going to invest in doctors who know everything about healthcare, but they can't actually code?
You're going to ask them to come together and bang their heads together.
Well, what we found out by talking to so many investors and government and great partners and so forth is that neither, especially when you're looking at large funds that they just know better. So we let's look at really quick. We look at somebody just asked for money, and they showed me they're from the United States, and they showed me their deck and everything else, and I said, "Wow, I know why you got turned down." He goes, "Yeah, help me. I said, "Because you're all academics. You have you know everything, except you can't build anything." We look at another deck, and there's just a whole bunch of people that somebody has a passion statement where my sister went through this. It was horrible. I want to make it better. I would like to make health tech, build this thing, have good process, all this, because I saw the problem. Well, they understand a problem from that one space. And they understand a little bit, not as an expert, but a little bit of what the problem solution could be. But you really need to have that expert in there.
Absolutely.
When it comes to health tech, I would say this, and I'm going to let my ego row here. We're good. We can build lots of things, but there's no way we would have ever been able to build 912 Rwanda, the national ambulance system for SAMU here in Kigali, where we have over 30,000 incidents that it went out there. There's no way that would have succeeded without the partners we had, including Dr. Suda from the United States and, of course, Professor Justine here. There's no way. We're good, but without that expertise, we could have got to 60, 80%. it's after that 80% that we do something critical and someone dies. Especially
Absolutely.
this is critical infrastructure we're building, and there's safety layers in all health.
Yeah. So I think those are great answers. So to summarize, we need to merge technical expertise with industry expertise.
Marriages.
Yeah.
That's what we should do. That is,
Yeah.
I have
That's
never
how
thought
you
about
build,
that way.
That's how you build
Yeah.
a great company. That's why, universities like MIT, they produce the, most billion-dollar companies, because it's an amalgamation of professors in physics, in biotech, plus engineers from Silicon Valley. So if you take, one of the things I was doing when I was working with ALX, and this is also one of the work that I do with, because I'm a mentor in the Mercedes-Benz Fellowship. One of the things we've been advocating for is, if you want to build these really great companies, go and bring academics, practitioners, and technical expertise together so that they can create something that is actually, that not only is needed on the marketplace, but is going to be built with trends in mind. So to your point, saying what I've seen, with hunger and everything, I mean, these kids are great engineers because I meet them, I see them, but
Much passion. Yeah.
they are so much passionate about what they're building, but there's still that lack of the weight that technical expertise and industry expertise brings.
And the two other layers that we didn't talk about, one is that we're like, again, if I reflect back to our major project, 912 Rwanda, there's the government layer.
Yes.
So, yep, you needed us. Yep, we definitely need those experts, but also it wouldn't have mattered without the actual infrastructure and the people we're actually building this with. Without the care, dedication, and unwavering support and information of the SAMU teams, the real world environment that we're working in. No matter what the standards are that the experts say, there is a real world there that we have to find the middle ground of what is safe and good and move forward on and build on to be able to evolve. So that's there too. But if you're building a startup, you also have to have the business plan. A wonderful startup that is, honestly, it's got lots of press, it's doing well, but it doesn't have a business plan out there. So sure, you have a service that you can provide, and people want your service, but you have no business plan to make money. So every time you get grant funding or you win a competition, awesome, but it's not a business. You're actually a charity at that point.
Rob,
and also just an asterisk on that. Also, the other asterisk that Africa has is that the biggest customer in Africa is the government. Okay, and when you're dealing in a market where that's the case, you need that industry expertise. I'll give you an example, a typical example. So we are in the middle of doing like fundraising for one of the biggest businesses on the continent. I'm not going to disclose the country, but one of the things that our investors in Dubai are requesting from the businesses here is, could you get some form of government express of interest letter? Do you have an MOU? Do you have an MOU so that we know that, if anything happens, we can always lean on the government. So there is that. So building a startup in this part of the world and building a startup in the US, so it requires a different type of mindset, because you're not dealing with a market where it's more of a B2C, it's B2G. Sometimes you're building even a GovTech product. So all of those has to be thought about. And the only way, or the best way at least, that I've seen to mitigate that risk is to have a lot of industry expertise, sectorial expertise, on the group, so that they can actually, you can feed on or learn from that experience and leverage those partnerships.
So on the founder level, in Rwanda, do we see this happening like soon, or it's something that needs advocates or
I think it's coming.
Do you think on your side also, I'm going to also give another follow-up question to Rob and Justine on that. Do you think okay, let me phrase it better.
Okay.
What would it require to so that founders can understand and then be able to collaborate with all those different parties? Where Rob and Justine also the question would be how did it work together for you, working you meeting Rob, working with Rob and the government? how were you able like to have like this 912 project going on? I know we don't
two
have
more
time.
podcasts.
I know we don't have time to say maybe the whole, but it's just in terms of what do we want to see in the ecosystem in Rwanda, and you've been doing very well. And so starting from Willie, do you see like this happening? And then I will come back to Rob and Justine to maybe share a little bit of their story.
I mean, founders really don't have a choice, and they have to catch up, and they are catching up. They have started to catch up because I think it was last year, probably in December, if I'm not mistaken, I hosted an event by the Rwanda Health Informatics Society in Rwanda. So this is a group of really brilliant doctors, health informaticians. People are really experts in their industry, and they're building a community, and they have amazing ideas. So it's really coming, and it's actually under the Rwanda ICT Chamber. So I would say in Rwanda it's catching up because it has really cost the founders a lot in terms of raising money or credibility in the market. So what I see is we are at a point where we don't have any other choice because, you know, otherwise I always say if you want to fight the trends in the system, you're going to fail because you are going to be stubborn and say, okay, I'm going to build a startup, despite me not having,
don't chase hype.
Don't do that. So if the system is presenting you a fact, you know, roll with it, play with it, be flexible. Because I've seen most founders, by the way, Thibaut, I think you know this, and probably Rob, you know how founders are so attached to their ideas. It's like it's your baby. No, it's an idea. It's a solution.
Just a concept.
Mold it, work on it. I mean, let's poke holes into it. Respectfully, not poking holes into babies, but you know what I mean. It's an idea. It's not a human baby. So you produce something. Let's mold it. Think of it like, you know, gold being turned into a jewelry or a piece of a necklace that we are doing. So that flexibility, that, you know, agileness in the way we approach building businesses, I think, you know, that's the way to go. And by the way, don't think that the reason why we don't want to give like precise predictions is because the world is so uncertain today that
don't worry, I'm not going to hold you accountable.
No fear.
No. Uncertainty.
No one is going to hold you accountable.
What I mean by uncertainty is this: like, because of the way things are changing and the rate at which globalization. When we used to talk about like globalization in 2020 as this sexy thing that is happening, but now globalization is somehow like a threat because a problem that is happening in America today, you know, in 24 hours it reaches the coastline of East Africa. So we need to be very, very, you know, agile and flexible so that we can navigate today's complex world. So yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Willie.
Yeah, so this is actually quite well studied. So how to interface with policy to get your solution accepted is in medicine is actually a really well studied area, and there are. Well, one of the things is that the actors, the people who are putting forward this, the actors, the people who are putting forward this sort of problem, are actually known by policymakers. They're people that can knock on the door of policymakers and say, hey, you've got a problem and we've got a solution. The other thing is that the characteristics of the issue they're trying to present to policymakers are well defined. So they can say, this is your problem, we can quantify it. This many people are going to die. You've got this many billions of savings if you solve this problem. So we've analysed data from Rwanda, which shows that if you reduce delays in people getting from an injury to hospital, the Rwandan government will save $3.5 billion across a patient's lifetime. So you can advocate on that. The other thing is that the actors, all of these people that are thinking there's a problem, need to be saying the same thing. So they all need to be saying to the policymakers, this is a problem, this is a problem, this is a problem. If you've got people saying, actually, Rwanda government, malaria is a problem, maternal neonatal child health is a problem, accidents are a problem, heart attacks are a problem, the Rwandan government and all other governments will be going, shit, where do we start? So all people need to coalesce around the idea. And the other thing that needs to happen is the policymakers need to want to listen to you. And that's where these many things fail. is the policymakers have got their own ideas of what the problems are. So no matter how urgent your problem is, we can say that there are 22 million deaths from injuries a year that are avertible. We can say that, but if the policymakers care more about malaria, they're not going to invest in your injury system.
It's where the focus goes, you're saying, too, right? Is a big part of this. The focus of the government at that time.
Yeah, exactly. And they have different incentives. Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation are interested in funding maternal health. And if the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation are funding a government, they're going to say, spend this money on maternal health.
And then that dictates what that focus is.
And really building businesses these days, or even policy development in general, it requires, because of the uncertainties we were saying, the introduction of AI, technology, and all of those things, and also funding structures that have become so complex. People need to work together. There's no other way. There's no other way around. Otherwise, we'll have like discrepancies in innovating and solving problems. That at the end of the day, you implement something, and when you look back, you're like, who thought about it? Like, this does not make sense. Like, how does this? I was reading something on, it was a policy committee meeting. They presented some facts, and I was like, how does that solution actually solves? It's like, and this is something that policymakers are going to really learn the hard way. That if you're, and actually I was discussing this with a friend of mine yesterday. We were talking about how, like, when you see like a setup of a conference, let's say it's a healthcare conference, it's a fintech forum conference, but the people on the panel, the people who are speaking are not actually the founders, the people who are building fintechs, they're only policymakers, instead of the other way around. Yeah. So I think there is really an urgent need of an exponential need of collaboration and working together. So you have entrepreneurs, investors, policymakers, experts, so that we can create an ecosystem that actually produces policies and innovations that work for the people that we actually claim to help and support.
This is a great discussion, and I almost want to start taking notes. But I have evolved on this topic over time. And working with Justine and then closer with the government on these projects, it really got tough. And I learned a lot more from that, of why we would do something, how you would make these choices, where you would start to move forward on. And of course, we always want to have that idyllic story where what you have passion and you care and you want to make change and you can, sure. But so 2013 to 2017, one of the strongest things I told anyone as a mentor in Rwanda, up in K-Lab mostly, and then up on panels and stages and so forth, I would say, do your research, find out as much as you can, and then go to the government and talk to them and listen to their agenda. If it's not on their agenda, it's not going to get done. You could build something, but they're not going to support you. You're not going to implement it. Sure. It's not going to be there. But if it's on their agenda, awesome. If you have that expert, if you are that expert, if you have this passion, you really don't want to let go, okay, then find somebody to listen and win them over. But you have to get that support of that side. In Rwanda, anywhere in the world, but we're here in Rwanda. You want to find that champion in the government, and it's not one, it's the person behind them and behind them and behind them. You want that whole group. And then, and here's where my evolution has gone to, move really fast. Like now. If you're going in health tech, it takes so long to prove something, takes so long to make sure that it's safe, and you have to be working with those champions, explaining it, making sure that you're on the same level and everything else. Another huge problem that everyone faces is when you're working with government, or you're working with an organization, or you're working with anyone in Rwanda, there is a culture that your idea is a good idea, and the more you prove it, well, then it's now my idea. And we're going to replicate it over here. And I'm just better at business than you. So there's that trust layer that blows things up too, because as a founder, you're really not sharing a lot to get those champions to really move it forward. Yeah. So it's kind of like the snake eating its tail, where it's just like, Yeah. So you have to have blind faith. You have to have that government in there. If you're doing anything that's regulated or anything that you need to implement with the government, you need those champions. And you need to be besties. That's my side of this. But what Willie and Justine, what both of you have said is also really even more so gold. It's tough. It's really tough.
Yeah, and the good news about that is that now the government of Rwanda is working on a mechanism where, you know, it has been a serious complaint whereby entrepreneurs were complaining how they bid something in tenders. So you submit an idea, and then by the time you realize, you know, someone is implementing it because they collected all of those ideas, and then after like 2 months or 3 months, you see an announcement saying, oh, we've decided to internally develop the solution. But what they did is...
If we had, let's say, $100 for every time that a story like that was said, we all could buy tickets to anywhere in the world and have this podcast on a golden table.
Absolutely. Yeah. So now what they're working on now is a mechanism where the ideas that were submitted in the tenders, first of all, are protected, but you can actually bid a tender where you don't implement, you just submit an idea. So which I think is going to be a concept.
I had pitches to the Ministry of ICT and my good friend running the Chamber of ICT, where stop pitches, do concepts only.
Yes.
And from there, get some type of NDA and some type of control and protection, and agreement to move something forward. Mm-hmm. But concept only. No more blueprints. Yeah. No more blueprints.
Yeah. So hopefully, with the speed that Rwanda moves on, we'll see that being like formally implemented or becoming a policy or a mechanism.
What I love about Rwanda, you know, listening to what you were saying, and what I love about Rwanda is Rwanda wants to be better. And you know, sometimes it gets messed up, and sometimes something happens and it looks so bad. But overall, everybody from the top all the way to the bottom, everyone really wants Rwanda to be better. Maybe in that moment you had a bad thing happen. You know, somebody stole your idea that really should have been more of a champion. Something. But overall, Rwanda wants to be better, and tomorrow it will be. And it's what keeps me here. I mean, I'm a huge fan. Yeah. I can go anywhere in the world, and sometimes I just want to go home. But then I work with the teams that are here. That was a smooch to my teams in the back that are hiding. But really, working with these teams and then working with people in Rwanda, no matter how hard it is or what bad week you had, there's that Monday that happens, and suddenly it's like, oh man, it does get better, and this is so cool, and it's a better place to be. Yeah. I have felt better working in this country with these teams and with the government, even though I have struggled, and with the organizations, even though I have struggled. It feels just better than back in the United States. Yeah. Even though back in the United States, I could really make a lot more money. And here I'm just losing all my money. But joking aside on money, it's really better here. And the opportunity, honestly, is here because of a lot of the things that we've said at this table.
Yeah, and who knows? The predictions I have here, you might even make more in the next 5 to 10 years. Who knows?
Well, making that platform that replaces lawyers, definitely.
Oh, I know.
Okay, Thibaut, there you have it. So there you have your conversation.
Before we jump to another topic, I have one last question.
Last? Feels like we just started.
No. I mean, the
actually,
question from this
for
topic.
the Brit, it feels like we've been going for a very long time. I think things are done differently in Rwanda.
It's not the last question. It's the question. it's a question from the topic that we started on the healthcare industry.
Oh, last health. Okay.
Yeah, but then we are going to move on. We have other topics. Don't worry.
I promise to go quick.
If let's start with Justine. If you were to make like a bold prediction, what do you see as the next big change in emergency healthcare in Africa, maybe global?
So in Africa, if you're looking for emergency healthcare in Africa, then most countries within Africa do not have organized pre-hospital dispatch systems. But it all depends on where you're starting at. So if you're a country that's starting with one doctor per 100,000 people, then the next big thing for that country would be more doctors. Because you can't have, you've got to have somebody to care for patients before you can have the next big thing come in. So what the next big thing is all depends on your needs, and that all depends on where you're starting at.
Well, what do you see, and what do you think is going to be the teaching moment that something, maybe not in particular, but just overall, that could be like, whoa.
So and
I won't hold your feet to the fire.
I'm a Brit and I'm a doctor, so we don't have things that are whoa. So we don't. So if I've done a lot of work in Sierra Leone and Burkina Faso, where there is very, very minimal care for patients at a hospital. They're not looking for a whoa. They're looking for staff. They're looking for equipment. They're looking for funding. I've seen people run out of the hospital in Sierra Leone because they need abdominal surgery and they can't afford to pay, so they go home to die. So there's no woe for those people, and I think we're sexing it up a bit to say so. But in countries where those systems are, then elevating that to the next level, and that in our field of emergency care is, I think, having some system that connects patients to hospitals like 912 Rwanda, which is automated and it's safe, then I think that's a big thing that will come to countries in sub-Saharan Africa.
Let me challenge you on this thing. How about this? Because aid and funding has declined so much, I don't know the numbers, I bet you do though. Because it declined so much, in a prediction of trend or where we're headed, what's going to happen from that? What's your prediction on that and where we're going to end up if that continues or and so forth?
So the first health minister of Rwanda, Agnes Binawatu, actually said that the development agencies and the aid agencies have done a lot of damage to the Rwandan health system because aid agencies earmark all of the funding. So they tell governments what they want the money to be spent on. So even if a government wants to spend money on caring for people with strokes, if there's no aid money coming in for that, that gets deprioritized. So actually, my hope is that with the reduction in aid, then governments will be able to better set their own priorities.
Wow.
So it's not always a good thing, but it's not necessarily a bad thing.
Well, but it'll give us a chance, though. It'll give us a chance to find out, really, because where before there was too much guidance, too much. So now they're kind of forced to say, "Well, go for it."
Yeah, no, and it wasn't
raise money from different
guidance.
places.
It was absolute stipulation. So in Sierra Leone, where I've done a lot of work, the budget for HIV was 30 million. The budget for heart attacks and strokes was 510,000. 50% of the population over 40 had heart attacks and strokes or risk factors for it. 2% had HIV. You go figure.
Okay. All right.
Rob, how about you?
This is where I feel like once you're in the industry too much, or you're building something as a builder, and you're too focused, you can't see the forest for the trees. I will say this: last 2 years has been a lot of money being tossed at insurance and tossed at health tech. However, those are hype cycles, and or I should say hype cycles. I take it back. Those are trends, and they drop, and they usually have 3 years maybe, then they come down. And there's a whole bunch of investors out there that listen to this, and sure, whatever you think, you're right. Please fund us because you're smart and intelligent. But I believe that we're going to see insurtech fall to the floor, and I believe we're going to see health tech peak at some point here and then have a massive drop. And I don't think that funding for health initiatives will change. With the way aid has changed with the United States, it's going to have a huge impact. But what I do believe is that companies might get funding, but chasing the health tech, this one thing or that little thing, I think that won't happen. But a real company doing a real thing, we're going to see that. So the way the trend is in the United States, and what happens is the wave starts in the United States, and people sink or swim, and then that wave lands here, and it's a year later, a few months later at the most. So that trend is already changed in the United States, so we'll probably see it here. So what that means again is that having a little bit of money, that little bit of little cash going to a health tech idea or that little app there or something here gets wiped out. But if you're established and you've done your seed funding and now you want to do more, sure, that's where the money is going to be. So that's my prediction on that. We're not going to see little checks for little ideas. It's going to be, are you established? Are you big? Let's do that.
Actually, the next topic was about funding.
Look at that segue.
Yeah. So something like I read recently was Rwanda, like the foreign investment, like foreign capital in Rwanda, jumped like from to 20-something%. Like it came from 800 million from the past year, 2024, to a billion and something to 2025. So as Trump removed like the aid, like from the aid come from like these American organizations like USA, GIZ and so forth. But like for USA, you know, like there is no more aid coming into. But now we're seeing more private capital coming into Rwanda. So as you just mentioned, like now we are going to see more businesses are going to be invested into. We're going to see more capital flowing in. Like last year we had Rwanda had actually 25 million in funding last year, 2025. But the biggest one was ampersand, going to electric, going to like some fintech as well. But in terms of funding, like what do you see? Maybe we can start with Willie. Like what do you see that is going to trend right now in 2026 in Rwanda? I know we have like this funding, like this Anthropic deal with the government, like which is AI. We also have like the big Bill and Melinda Foundation, which is also like AI, but healthcare like services. But like, what do you see something like that is going to trend in terms of investment? Are we going to stick to electric, like, or maybe circular economy, or are we going to be like in health tech or AI? Where do you see like the next capital inflow going to come from the private sector? Also, like this is not like taking for granted like the other small businesses, because the most foreign direct investment that came to Rwanda last year went to banks expanding their branches, went to infrastructure, building roads, like having like these new buildings that like equity banks, things like that.
Yeah, the infrastructure.
Yeah, the infrastructure. But like also, like, can you just tell us where do you see like we are heading in 2026 in terms of funding?
Yeah, that's a good one. So when it comes to capital and funding, there's always two sides. There's public and private. So, and when you're talking about the foreign investment that is coming in the country, you're talking about, for instance, in 2024-25, there was the remittances in Rwanda alone was from the diaspora was $500 million. And that's capital that is coming in the country that is looking for vessels. And I'm going to, this is a layered question. So I'll start with the capital markets and then I'll progressively move into the private markets. So in terms of capital markets, we see that Rwanda is already building the plumbing systems to actually host that kind of capital. So we see that, for instance, through the Rwanda Stock Exchange, there is a growing number of corporate bonds. Now it's no longer about your company being listed on the Rwanda Stock Exchange. You can actually, if you fulfill all the conditions, your company can raise corporate bonds. So which means a company like Rwanda Builds, you can raise $1 million, $2 million, and it has been seen that that's one of the fastest growing financial instruments in Rwanda. And in terms of, and that also is going to give an opportunity for the diaspora, someone who has, $500, $200, $1,000, $2,000, $10,000 to invest in the Rwandan market. And in terms of funding on the private side, we've also seen that, as Rob was saying, there is a growing number of interest in Africa, and specifically in Rwanda. We've seen a growing number of entrepreneurship programs being funded by the MasterCard Foundation, companies like Anthropic signing MOUs with the government of Rwanda. And that ties into, right now, our Minister of ICT, she's in India for the AI Impact Forum, I believe. So all of that is it's shedding light on Rwanda, it's bringing all of that attention, and we'll see that growing. Now, when it comes to businesses, how can we capitalize on that? Or organizations? I think it's all about positioning ourselves. Because when the government receives funding, they are not implementers. They are policymakers. They don't implement. So they are looking for implementation partners. As Rob was saying, it's very important now to actually go in NST2 and read. Right now in the east, that's the eastern side, in Rubavu, there's a meeting of development partners retreat. They are talking about the NST2 and how they are going to actually participate and actively partner with the government of Rwanda to implement on that. One of the things that our president prioritized when the RPF government took power, leadership took power, was to actually have a say on how the donor funding is actually going to be deployed in development projects in the country. So you give me your money, but I have the right to say, oh, we don't need this in education, we actually need this in healthcare. And I think I love the fact that development partners are catching up on that. And now the entrepreneurs, the NGOs, the smaller NGOs, the social enterprises. So having that aspect of understanding where the country is heading, positioning ourselves, and also talking to the government, go and ask for meetings. Now, the good thing about Rwanda is that if you want to meet someone and they're not interested, you can go on social media and say, I have been trying to reach out to this organization for this, and then you tag everyone, and then in 24 hours, they're going to say, oh, please come on for the next meeting for the next day. So it happens. So in Rwanda, it's more responsive. So because of that funding that is coming, it's very important for the business owners to actually position themselves. And one of the biggest predictions that I can make in terms of capital influx, you're going to see that. So right now in Rwanda, real estate is growing at 12.5%. Year over year since 2020.
It's been on a tear and it's not
someone might ask, so how in a small country apartments and penthouses are more expensive than Los Angeles and California? The reason is because we have a growing number of the expat community is beautifully growing, which is really good because it's going to raise the purchasing power, it's going to empower the economy.
You don't think it's a bubble though?
Is it a bubble? It might be a bubble, but it will take long to burst, for it to burst. Because let me prove it. So Rwanda is growing so fast that even the central bank today, it has now increased the rate at which the banks borrow from it, from 5 to 7.2.
The interest rate, yeah.
Yeah, the interest rate. So that's a way, it's a mechanism to slow down inflation because the demand is growing. So what this really, the story that it tells is that this is an amazing time for businesses to position themselves. But also, as we were saying, the biggest customer is the government, and probably the businesses are going to gain more grants. There's more grants in terms of the ecosystem, more grants in the ecosystem than more there's like clients or consumers. So we will see that happening as well. So I would say Rwanda is presenting a really interesting, we are at an inflection point where things are going to really change a lot. And we'll see where this heads, but that's what I see. And I see the efforts that the government is, because when you see, for instance, the Kigali International Finance Center, they have crushed their goals in terms of what they have aimed for like the past 5 years. I think they brought in close to over $1 billion in terms of foreign investment. Right now, Rwanda is positioning itself as an international finance center, which means we can host funds, we can have like proper fund management, fund administration. So all of that those are the signs of, it's like seeing a kid in adolescence, like crossing all the way to like 18, 20, like young adult. So it's really
in practice, but not the actual value.
Yeah. So like policy-wise. Policy-wise. So policy is the plumbing. So the plumbing is being laid out. So now what passes through those pipes that the government is laying down, it's up to the entrepreneurs, because we've seen, Robia from the US, and even other economies, Singapore, China, there is a level that the government cannot implement at. Yeah. So they provide the policies, the infrastructure, but they cannot build.
I deeply agree with that.
Absolutely. They cannot build EVs. They cannot build a Tesla. They have to. We need entrepreneurs and more development partners and impact producers. So in a nutshell, that's how I see it. And it's all about positioning ourselves so that, the good thing about, as I close, the good thing about where Rwanda is and building in this season is that you really don't need to, you let physics do its job. When you stand in the middle of a current, it's going to kind of like carry you up instead of, you being on the hustle side of implementation, because people are open to ideas, to innovation. So it's going to be exciting. It comes with risks. We'll probably discuss about that, but yeah, it's the future
maybe
looks
another
bright.
podcast.
Yeah,
So what are the risks?
The risks. There are risks. Certainly, there is. Finance is like risk and returns, but we focus on returns for the sake of the conversation and what we see. But Yeah, thank you.
Like, okay, before I jump to Rob, do you believe like we can see more influx this year going to startups? Because like compared to foreign capital that came in Rwanda in 2025, we had like compare like $1 billion coming in Rwanda, but only 25 million goes to Rwandan startups. And this is not saying like it's not 1,000 startups. This is like just one.
Such a small percent.
Like it's such a small percent.
My friend, let me tell you, the kinds of, the startup conversation in Africa it's a topic that I'm writing a book on it. That's because the whole point of like, the kind of businesses we are building are not supposed to be built in this economy. So the kind of businesses that are going to succeed are not the typical startups that we imported from the Silicon Valley models or European models. They're the businesses that actually fixes our problems. That's why you've seen a whole cohort of Nigerian fintech startups, SaaS startups failing like flies. It's crazy. Because why? Why are they failing? It's because they are solving the problems that no one really deeply cares about. So we don't build businesses to be wealthy. In Africa, we build businesses to survive, to get on. Jobs.
I don't have a job.
I don't have a job.
I'm an entrepreneur until I can get a job.
So someone like that is going.
How do I sell this idea and copy this thing and let's go forward.
Exactly. And this ties into the AI implementation. I think AI in Africa we are really going to be surprised on how AI is going to look like when it's properly implemented in our context. Because, in AI in Africa is not ChatGPT.
The only time I take that taxi will be to evacuate as fast as I can to the airport to get out of the country when that becomes a real major problem.
Right. So Africa is its own whole ballgame because you have 54 countries and you have 2,000 cultures. 1, 2, 3, up to 2,000 cultures. You cannot tell me you're going to build a chatbot in a landscape like that. So we need.
The one. You mean the one that everyone agrees to, that everyone follows,
No. So there's a deep, there's an urgency to customize all of that. It's a whole conversation. We if we go into it, it's really going to take a lot of time.
I believe that's it.
Yeah.
That will take another podcast.
Yeah.
You've covered 3 other podcasts that we need to have now.
So, but this also goes
keeping
to
notes.
Yeah, it goes also to not only AI, but it also goes into Web3, cryptocurrency, and blockchains, and how to implement it in Africa. We have to think of the ways to do it. And I love that on the capital side, the way Rwanda is doing. We'll be okay because we see recently they are going to now in Rwanda we have like vehicles like the Rwanda National Investment Trust. It's our S&P 500, by the way. We have an advent of Rwanda Real Estate Investment Trust that is also coming. So financial instruments, policies that is coming. So yeah, we'll see how it takes us, but that's how the landscape looks like.
Rob, I like what he said when you mentioned actually. When you mentioned we have to position ourselves, like the founders more specifically. I want to turn it to Rob now. Like you and I have been like talking to investors like for the couple of years, and we've had like some failures, rejection.
So much pain.
Some of them ghosted us. It's very tough, and we've got really good I call them good feedback because actually the ones who provided feedback would tell us actually what we lack, what we miss. But it wasn't as what we have. For some of them, yes, but it was Rwanda. So, Rob, do you see, now, has the mood changed from the investor side? Do you believe 2026, with all this private, capital coming in Rwanda, do you believe, more founders are going to raise more funding this year? Or is still the mood about Rwanda? Rwanda is a small country. Rwanda, we don't have a success story that makes noise. But I'm raising actually 18 million last year, which is a very good way of putting ourselves into a good position to build investor confidence. So what do you think that is going to happen in 2026?
Man, I love you, buddy. But this is probably the one question that is going to keep me up at night. It's going to drive me to wake up early in the morning. I don't know. It has been so brutal for so many people that are seeking. and people that I truly, deeply believe in that couldn't get money, including some of our projects, just blows my mind. And then others that I look at and they get funding for something, and I question. There's a game here that everyone has to play to get funding. I will say this. There's a lot of numbers to this, and Rwanda has a small population. So when you're talking about your startup in Rwanda, you put it on the African context, and you have to tell that African story. Otherwise, just the numbers, for any investor, the numbers aren't there. When if you're looking at, again, 'cause the big topic today is health tech. When you're looking at your health tech, and you have a small group of people, you're not going to get certain types of funding. When you have certain impact, and like I mentioned before, we have 30,000 incidents that we did. We didn't do anything. SAMU has done. We just had the pleasure and the opportunity to build the software that did it, but that software has 30,000. That is value. So when you're building something, how do you get enough money to then have something that has that value that you can prove and then get that next level, the next level? So I really don't know if it's going to be better or not. I honestly don't know. I do know this, there's trends. And investors right now, last year, 60%. And again, all the experts out there, you can find me on Twitter, throw your dirt at me. But about 60% was allocated for AI foundational or AI focused solutions. The other 40%, that's the rest of us that already had a product or we're building something that maybe AI is a feature, but not that focused. Some of the things I was reading said, buckle up, 2026 is going to be 80%. But then it's going to peak and it's going to drop considerably. I would say that could be a prediction I make, but that's not my feeling or what I see as an expert. I really don't know. This is just what other people that truly are at that investor side. My investment side is 100,000 and below, spread out amongst my teams and others. That's it. And then, of course, the funding that we raise with our other great partners. So, if you're asking for a prediction, if you're asking what's going to happen, I was wrong in 2024. I was wrong in 2025. And part of that isn't necessarily that I was wrong about the market or I was wrong about how hard it is. It was wrong about the strategies to leverage all that. So looking at 2026, that AI side, it's what everybody wants to hear. But this is my core belief. The product always wins. You have a great product, it's going to win. But what does that really mean? Well, it's a product that is useful. It's a product that has impact. It is a product that people truly love and you can prove, and you can tell that story. Half of everything that we do as a founder is the story. But somebody that's going to give you a lot of money, it's also the proof behind it. So it is incredibly tough in that sense. And I don't know, my friend. I do know that Rwanda is a great opportunity, but you have to struggle more than someone in Kenya or somebody in Nigeria that has that population and has those other opportunities. I will say in Rwanda too, that from the outside in, the world loves Rwanda. And investors show up here with bags of money, but the problem is they leave with those bags of money. So we have a culture of screwing that up. Because they come here, it feels good, they want to, but we don't close those deals. So this isn't a prediction. This is more of me every time I get on stage is to say, hey, we're here in Rwanda. We've got something great. And we're really not competing all that much. We need to collaborate. We need to come together. Government needs to open their doors a little bit more and be supportive. And they're amazing, but there's more that can be done so we can truly, the dev founder, that startup level person can actually can run fast. The deals that are made are at a higher level with people that already have money. Those are easier here. The people that are at that lower level, the people that we want, that we seek and want to build, that person that is on a journey, and we're going to start from 0 to 1, the exciting one, the one that if you put a little bit of money in, that you are a billionaire if they succeed, that's where we go. That is a harder journey, period. But in Rwanda, it's just not as supported. And as easy it is to start a business here, day 2, it's really hard to maintain and keep going. So these are things that we have to change. If I was to predict, will it get better? Well, yeah, because we do get better in Rwanda, and the government makes sure of it. And the people that are supporting that want it. Everybody wants it. But sometimes we just don't know what the next step is. And a lot of times we move too fast and we kind of make it worse. And then we have to figure out what that is, and we lose a year. So that's, man, I want to say something, but that's the struggle, and it's tough. And it's been tough for most people I talk to. And across Africa, it's tough. In the United States, it's nowhere near as tough. If I had the opportunities here in the United States, we would have been funded just so easily. And we're offered things in the United States. It just blows my mind of why is it that the hard thing that's in the United States, here it's easy. But the easy thing here in the United States is so hard. I don't know why those things flop. But, yeah.
So, I would like to ask Justine, maybe on the sentiment Rob just shared, you've raised millions for projects in Africa. Do you believe donors, they share the same sentiment regarding Africa? Let's say maybe your field of expertise, there is research and data, do they get the outcome they feel like, so that maybe next time they can come for other more projects? Do you feel like they share the same sentiment?
I'm going to keep this very brief because these two have covered a lot of ground, and I don't want to add time to that. So my funding is medical research funding and development. Do people feel the same sentiment? It's very difficult to say. All I can tell you, and I'm going to be brief, is that the sentiment has changed. So there was a sentiment of funding in Africa, and there still is a sentiment of funding in Africa, but what that funding is going to now is going to be increasingly, at least from the UK point of view, focused on global health security. And by that, it's infectious diseases and more protectionism.
Yeah. And I know we're at time, so I'm gonna just tie it up real quick. You said something that just has been burning in the back of my head, and I don't even know how to address it, but I do want to comment to Justine's for sure moment, and that is that a lot of funding for health and a lot of funding for what we saw that was easy, that has turned out to be very, very agenda focused, and you just have to lean in on that and listen. What you feel is a good idea when you're going out to get funding doesn't mean that funder feels it. Do your research and look into it. And a lot of times you'll find out that the vast majority of the people you're going to ask money from, it doesn't fit. So just be prepared for that.
Okay. Any other comment? Okay, so I see we are even way over time. But it was an amazing conversation. I would like to take maybe 1 or 2 questions from the audience. Okay. Arafat, right? Yeah. There is also we have Arafat. We also have another one. So let's just do it quickly and then. So be brief, please. You have 30 seconds to ask your question.
Thank you so much. You guys, you've had a very nice conversation. I was really enjoying it there. But, you've talked a lot, and there are things that I really want to... There are things that are really... I can't even have all of them, but I wanted to comment on a few things. Willie, is it Willie?
Yes.
There's something you talked about on... adaptability. We have really a very big challenge in Kigali, in Rwanda. The government is far away from the public. The government is having so nice, good initiatives that are coming in for the public. But when you look at where the people are, they've left us. Look for the Anthropic MOU that they just signed. Can you imagine? I was actually laughing. Signing an MOU with Anthropic, and people out here are also struggling even to use ChatGPT, Some people are just using ChatGPT to draft emails, to, ask questions, and you're telling us that you have an MOU now with Claude AI, probably it's what they're going to bring or something close to that. But from your perspective, do you think even Rwandans are ready to consume what the government is actually bringing on table? For me, I don't think we are not even anywhere close to that. You see? Second, I don't expect there is going to be a flying taxi in Kigali. There isn't going to be. Where is Marathon now? Where is Marathon? You know, it was actually even Volkswagen was going to go back. You know, the government has got quite a lot of good initiatives that are, I think as you mentioned earlier, Thibault, that Rwanda is good for, it's good for testing. It's a testing ground.
Test bed, yeah.
It is a testing ground. But being a testing ground, we would be actually lucky to have that ground being a testing ground and grab it and take it, but we are not ready to grab it and take it. The government is ready testing for everything, but are we ready to take it? No. That's what I can see.
Thank you. All everyone, right. Justine. Professor.
We are still struggling when it comes to tech and where the government is. For me, I think it requires a lot of awareness in the public so that people get to know what we need. Because the government is far, far away from us, you see. They are on a speed that I don't think even tech entrepreneurs who are here that are even, they're not there even themselves, I think.
Yeah.
You see? Because how many innovations that we have in Kigali that are in the tech industry that you can actually mention here and name them that these are Rwandan tech startups that are doing well? Just to give me 5. We don't have them. But when you look at the government, how much is investing, how much is really trying to have these MOU on board, do you know how many MOUs are in these ministries? But we are not utilizing them. So the question is, what do you think really needs to be done? Because I heard you talking more about this, do you think we are even anywhere there?
I think, that's a legitimate concern. And part of the answer is what you just mentioned is speed. So because of the rate at which the world is moving and a lot of things that is changing, the government is matching the speed at which the world is changing so that we don't get left behind as a country. So the government is adapting as fast as they can, hence the signing of these MOUs, hence the partnerships that are being done very fast. And I think the only thing I would say for an entrepreneur, what can we do about it? So, number one, there is an aspect of approaching them and speaking to them and say, okay, and one thing I know is that despite the speed that the government has, but there's also still that it might not be more graceful out as we would want it to be or generous as we would want it to be. But I think if you approach them and say, okay, this is the MOU with Anthropic, and this is how I want to be part of it, okay? This is what I want to bring in as a contribution. I think that contribution, it might not pass at the first trial, but they're going to listen and see, okay, how can your startup, do you want to contribute? This is how I want to contribute. So number one is approaching to them and, be close to these bodies that are signing these MOUs, the Ministry of ICT, the Rwanda ICT Chamber. I'm not sure if do you have a tech startup? No, you don't. So are you part of the Rwanda ICT Chamber? No. So those are the platforms where you can actually grab on those partnerships much faster so that you can catch on, you can benefit from it. Okay,
prompting or usage?
Yeah, prompting. Okay. Prompting. And then as the kids grow, they are going now to find other aspects of AI. So the LLMs.
If they're exposed to it. Yes.
If they're exposed to it.
Yeah.
So, and I think that's what Anthropic MOU actually entails. So I would say, get close to these.
But I think it's for government use only, not education, though. I might be wrong.
No. It says that they are going to implement it. They are partnering with Anthropic to actually deploy AI in healthcare, education, and other avenues.
I didn't know that schools education. I thought that was
No,
government.
education means school. Education means school because
That's awesome.
But they also,
I
for education, they are partnering with ALX, which ALX like is it's a platform where like people can learn like coding, software engineering.
All right, so there's a focus
So there is
to
a
it. There's a
focus.
platform focus.
Yeah. But for Anthropic, I think it's going deeper than that, and that is one of the things that Rwandans 2.0 or the younger ones, the Gen Zs are going to grow up with. So and for the older ones, we have to be close to the if you hang around the barber cut, you're going to end up getting a haircut. So that's how I and personally on the individual level, I believe that it's good to approach AI as the way you know how to use your phone or social media, so that you get acquainted with it, and then you catch up on that. Yeah,
a deep opinion on it. Building with AI or building AI solutions is different than using. Every year, a developer that steps out of a university here, be it at the Rwanda University, which is where most of our developers are that we actually onboard, versus ALU or CLU, it doesn't matter. Every year they get better. Every year they understand the tools better. Every year they're just better. It's not just education. It's the environment that they're in and how they leverage what's out there to move forward. So building AI versus using AI, that's two different things. I believe that if the tool is coming out, like the tool we used on the phone while we were even sitting here, that was incredibly easy. If it's easy to use, if the usability is easy, it's going to be adapted. So the prompting language that we have, that was, that's like that early version of AI use with an LLM.
It's actually the lowest.
When Thibaut asked me right away about, what did I get into, and I was stumbling around thinking to myself, I'm being recorded and everything I say is going to be dumb. And I forgot a couple things. Honestly, I didn't start with Grammarly. But then I adopted, it was either Jervis or Jervis. Jervis. And it was horrible. And prompting wasn't prompting then. It wasn't until ChatGPT came out. There's an evolution to all this. The one thing that is amazing that I will tout and just wave the flag to, and if they ever let me, I'm buying as much stock as I can, is Grammarly. Grammarly, you don't have to think about prompting. It's just going to help you. There is AI behind that. It told me for like my anniversary of the year since I've been using it for over a decade, how many words. It was a shockingly amount of words that it processed for me. Millions and millions and millions and millions. And I know that I have 9,000 word documents, but I didn't know I did that many to have that many corrections or processing. I'm not prompting. It is a tool that just takes over and helps me write better. And it will give me a suggestion. So when I'm writing something and I say, I need this to be professional, I just click the professional tab, and suddenly everything is a little bit more professional. If I'm writing and I'm all in a grumpy mood, I'm like, blah, 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 it'll say, hey, yo, how about this? That's a little bit more professional. I'm like, okay, thank you. And it really did make me a better writer, as I said in the beginning. Yeah. Like it made me a better writer. And those tools that are the AI, that will be adopted here. The problem is that I'm paying X amount for that, and the vast majority of Rwandans do not find value to pay for that. The culture of free here will hold us back from engaging and purchasing at an individual level. And companies here and businesses here and definitely founders here will not be buying tokens to leverage AI to build. So we're going to go slower because we're not going to invest in that. As a consultant, what I would say right away is, what's the cost of those two people you're going to hire to develop versus the one that can actually leverage these tools, and you're going to buy tokens, you're going to get them these services, they're going to move faster and better. You have to prove that. We have a learning curve here. But I believe, and I mean this wholeheartedly, and I've already said it, and I'm going to sit here, and I'm just going to wave a flag. We'll adopt this faster here. Rwanda loves things like this. They love to leapfrog, but also they love the answer. And my goodness, that's the answer. When ChatGPT hit 3, it was good, right? Like we were like, oh, Thibaut, this might be useful for us. For someone like me, I don't need it. I leverage Grammarly because as I'm typing, it makes me just that 10% better. But suddenly, I can actually prompt something and get a response, and I'm like, whoa, that's useful. Where normally, whatever it told me, I have to rewrite it, and it's wrong. Now, every iteration after that, it got better. That's the answer. Rwanda loves to get the answer. So in the United States, we have a whole bunch of experts. We have people that are already in the industry. We have veterans that don't need this at the level it's at. They don't need to go to 80%. But here in Rwanda, we do. And for Rwanda, and I say this with love, 80% is way better than whatever they would have done before. So I believe we're going to adopt these things better and faster, and we're going to utilize it at a higher level. And per populace, I believe that we're going to be an AI nation. So I totally disagree.
Absolutely, yeah.
I totally disagree. I think we're going to go faster. I believe our government's going to adopt it. I believe it's quite possible that the only government official that's going to be better than Kagame after he passes, which hopefully he never does, will be the AI overlord. And I think we should all embrace him.
Yeah.
I laugh.
Yeah, and I think this tension of speed and very hard to catch up on, it's not only Rwandans who are feeling it. Everyone is feeling it around the world. So
well, it's leveraged around the world, though.
Yeah.
I think you're right in the one sense, and I think Thibaut's question is real because it doesn't seem like it, but I believe a lot of people are using it. They're just not mentioning it because we don't talk about things like that.
Yeah.
Because it's a little bit like cheating. And they're in that layer.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that layer here in Rwanda where that transparency sucks.
Yeah.
That's hurting you. It's a defensive thing that shouldn't be. But I could tell you the day, and what I was saying is the day that when Thibaut and I, we saw like ChatGPT come up and suddenly it got useful. I'm like, whoa. And then you know what happened? Pitch decks became amazing. And proposals were perfect. And they weren't, but they were written perfect. And again, it's that, what's the answer? It told me the answer, I'm going to use the answer. So as these things become better and as we get a little bit of skill with it, I believe that the Rwanda populace in a whole will embrace it way faster than the experts in Rwanda and also the experts in like the United States where I'm from, where also our ego won't let us do it. Like honestly, when I'm writing something and there's a little thing off in the AI, I'm like, you're garbage. I'm just going to write this anyways, So anyways, that is my strong answer on that. And I do not believe it's cheating. I believe that this is a way for us to move forward and communicate better. However, here's the line that gets crossed. Somebody that doesn't understand it, somebody that doesn't know it and just copy paste and let's go with it can probably fake their way further than they could have without it. So that way we get somebody in a position that really doesn't know what they're doing. It's just AI. And at that point, we're going to go back to the beginning of this podcast where you asked me that question. And you know what? You don't hire that one. You got to figure out that because you're just going to have an agent do it anyways. That person is using an agent, doesn't know what it is. You do know what it is. You might as well just build that agent to continue on forward as that agentic side.
Mic drop.
Boom. Mic drop. Yeah, thank you so much, Rob. And really, I guess this is the end of the session and the podcast.
Yeah.
And it's really interesting because I feel like it shouldn't be ending like right now because I had so many questions to ask you.
There are too good, man. There's just too good questions.
We will have more podcasts coming. Stay tuned.
More live podcasts.
Yeah. Already good conversation I've seen already. Thank you so much to the audience.